I'd now like to invite the members of our final panel to join us, to join me at the stage. Dr. Joachim Lücking from the European Commission, Maria Algaraiz from the EASA, Mr. Christophe Vivier from the European Defence Agency, and Mr. Andreas Boschen from the SESAR 3 joint undertaking. For this final panel, it's important to realize what we're trying to do here. We've had a day yesterday describing the Drone Strategy 2. Now we've gone through the SESAR contribution. We've tried to expand it a little bit, looking at standards and regulation and then actual deployments. But now we're going to look ahead a little bit. What do our institutional leaders here see coming up into the future? And with that, clearly there is a link to the Drone Strategy 2, which brings us full circle back to the event yesterday. I'll just introduce our speakers for you, those who don't know them. Dr. Joachim Lücking has been head of the Unit for Aviation Safety in the Directorate General for Mobility and Transport in the European Commission since November 2016. In this role, he is responsible for implementing and developing European aviation safety policy, including the oversight of EASA, as well as the Commission's international activities in this area. He also leads DG Move's work on drones and innovative air mobility. He represents the Commission as a member of the Management Board of EASA and an alternate member of the Governing Board of the Clean Aviation Joint Undertaking. Welcome, Joachim. Maria Algaraiz started her glittering aviation career working in Eurofighter 2000 EJ200 engines, which were followed by roles at CERN in Geneva, Airbus, and the Joint Aviation Authorities. Maria joined EASA in 2006 as a rulemaking officer for aircraft operations and CNS aspects. In 2008, she joined the ATM ANS department. She has had several positions in the department, including EASA SESAR coordinator and lately acting section manager of the ATM ANS regulations section within the Flight Standards Directorate and the UTM SESAR coordinator at EASA's innovation cell within the executive directorate. Since the beginning of 2019, she is the EASA Drone Program Manager and Senior Air Traffic Management Advisor within the Executive Directorate and reporting director to the EASA's Executive Director. Having heard in the previous panel how important civil-military coordination is, it gives me enormous pleasure to welcome Christophe Vivier to the panel, who is the head of the Single European Sky Unit in the European Defence Agency. Before joining the European Defence Agency, he was working for the French representations to EU and NATO in Brussels as an advisor to the military aviation issues. Christophe spent 30 years in the French Air Force as a jet pilot and has held a number of different positions of authority in the French Air Force and in the French Military Aviation Authority. In the framework of his past and present responsibilities, he has accumulated more than 12 years' experience in the field of drones. Welcome, Christophe. And last but not least, I'd like to welcome Andreas Boschen, who started his career as a diplomat in Germany taking care of EU affairs. He joined the European Commission Secretariat General in 1998 to manage relations between the European Commission, Parliament, Council and other bodies. He then moved to DG Move, where he held several notable positions, including Policy Officer for the Single European Sky, Policy Officer for Maritime Safety and Assistant to the Director General of DG Move. After nearly 8 years leading the Department for the Connecting Europe facility in Sinea, Andreas started his mandate as Executive Director of the SESAR 3 joint undertaking in July of this year. That makes him my boss, by the way, so I'm going to have to be rather careful. Welcome to all of you. Thank you very much for taking up your valuable time for our brief conversation today. What I'd like to do is just ask each of you a little question, just to stimulate the debate. So if I may, I'd like to start with Joachim. We heard yesterday about the Drone Strategy 2. And congratulations, by the way. It's a very useful document I think we're all looking forward to with great hopes. How do you see this in practical terms impacting ongoing regulatory, research and deployment activities?
Well, thank you, Robin, and good afternoon to all. So in terms of what we see as next developments, I think the drone strategy, first of all, points to the need to actually implement what has already been decided. And we had this very interesting panel just now, which pointed to the fact that there is still a lot of work to be done to actually implement the use spaces according to the existing regulatory framework. I mean, we have the date of the 26th of January of next year as a starting date, but I would actually be very astonished if we saw many use spaces active on that day. And one idea I had during the coffee break was maybe to give a prize to the first use space that goes online in Europe in order to award first movers to move forward. That implementation needs to be accompanied, and the drone strategy points to a number of dimensions which are important to follow there. And one important point we highlight in the strategy is also the need, and that was mentioned by the Spanish colleague just now, to get a fix on the pricing for the common information service provider, where the Commission has proposed to solve this as part of the SES2 Plus package, and where would be very much hopeful that the European legislators or the Member States, the Council, get to an agreement not only on this point, but on the whole SES2 Plus package. Now, when we look further in the future, the drone strategy clearly sets out a vision which would move away from today's system, which is to a large extent built on a segregation between unmanned and manned air traffic in order to really come to an integrated airspace, which includes both manned and unmanned aviation. And in order to get there, I think it's first important to learn from the experience that will be acquired once use spaces have started to emerge in Europe. And we very much count on the use space stakeholder network to help us share and analyze this experience. And then, of course, there's a very important role for EASA in their role as standardizing the work of the national authorities, but also in their role as managing a number of technical groups where the experiences will be discussed in order to bring forward these experiences and identify the needs which need to be fulfilled in order to come to that vision. And then that obviously points to the need for more research. I mean, we clearly announced in the strategy the Commission's wish or intention to continue funding research in that area to be conducted by SESAR in order to really allow the technical capabilities to be in place to come to this vision of the integrated airspace. And again, I think the discussions and the presentations that we had here, on the one hand, showed that we are on a very good way and that there is a lot of interesting research going on in Europe, but that there are also still a number of building blocks on which research needs to be done in order to make that vision a reality. And finally, to close the loop, all this will, of course, also then need to revise our use space regulation. We had always said that this is a first attempt to get it right, but that will have to be an iterative process. So I'm not astonished to already have heard from EASA in an earlier presentation that they will propose future revisions already in the coming year or the year after. But certainly, before we come to 2030, this will not be the only revision, and we will have to accompany the process of further developing the use space by having an appropriate legislative process in place in order to sort of have a clear link between the research results and then the regulations that are in place.
Thank you very much, Joachim. Interestingly, that preempts my question to you, Maria. There's basically, we understand the regulatory framework, as Joachim very clearly explained there. It comes into force in January, but it is just a first step towards a more detailed and a more all-encompassing regulatory portfolio. What's the alligator that's closest to the canoe? What needs to be done first, either to refine the current regulation or to take it to the next step? Where do we find ourselves? What's the biggest problem you can see?
Good afternoon, everybody. And I want to take the opportunity to congratulate the Commission for the drone strategy and also SESAR for this very interesting event. It has been a very good event. I would like to reply to the question. So for the implementation of the EU space regulation, I mean, you have seen already, I don't want to repeat what has been said. Stefan has already said that we need a common standard for interfacing the Common Information Service with the USSPs, because otherwise the certification in one country or by EASA will need to be reassessed in the other country. So that's if we want a certification that is valid and we want this idea of plug and play, we need to have these common standards. So we don't have it that yet, and we hope that with the different projects, we will be able to identify at least a minimum set of different ways of standardize the connection, being by means of message or by means of protocols. Another standard, if we want to really go in the direction of more integration with manned and unmanned traffic, we need a common altitude reference system. We have seen a project, Icarus. We are looking forward to receive the final results, but then we need to have the development of the standard for the services. We have identified an initial set of services. It needs to be complemented with more advanced services because at the moment we exclude the manned VTOL traffic for very good reasons. They will fly VFR, and until we don't have a better ways of integrating this traffic, we need to follow VFR rules. So we need to have a way also to manage this traffic outside the US space aerospace, inside the US space aerospace, in and out vertiports, wherever they are located. And in addition to all this, we need to have more experience and feedback for the implementation of the existing services and what sort of performance requirements we will get from those services and how far we can go with those services and how we can scale up operations with the use of those services or definition of additional ones. So I will leave it from here. Enough to do, I think, in the next years. And we're looking forward to receive the result of all these SESAR projects. I didn't talk, though, that in the area, obviously, of civil-military cooperation, for the big ARPAs, we are looking forward to receive also the project's results for some other projects implementation on IFR traffic. And we will need to learn a lot from what the military has done so far and start from there to scale up operations for IFR traffic with RPAs. Yeah.
Thank you, Maria. So in fact, it seems we have a great deal that needs to be done, but it's a good time also to take stock, learn the lessons back, get the feedback from what's being done before we rush into something else, and of course work closely with the military, which leads me nicely onto you, Christoph. I think it's fair to say that SESAR hasn't done a lot of explicit work with EDA and the military community on U-Space, although we have had a good harmonization on the larger IFR RPAS. Yet we've heard in the presentation that preceded our panel that civil-military cooperation is vital to the success. I know you've done your own projects within the U-Space domain, within EDA, and with your military members. What would you like to see different from SESAR and from European research? Can you see maybe how we can do more for the military community and how we can learn from the military community?
Thank you for the question. Good afternoon, everyone. And please let me also congratulate the Commission for the very good job done in the framework of the strategy and SESAR for this nice event. And thanks for inviting EDA to this event. Allow me to begin first to recall what are maybe the three main objectives from a military perspective and what are the military objectives in the framework of U-Space. First, to maintain the same level of safety in order to be able to perform the military and state missions in low altitude. This is one point. Second one, to guarantee the security of critical infrastructure, critical assets. And third, to identify and quantify the operational, technological and financial impacts of U-Space on the military and therefore to secure the appropriate funds to tackle these challenges. Second, and to reply to your question, you are right. EDA conducted its own study in order to address the challenges I mentioned just before. and to identify what are the areas in which civil collaboration should be enhanced in the framework of U-Space in order to make the best use of U-Space according to a win-win principle. Having said that, and coming back to SESAR, I do believe that we have the appropriate hooks in the SESAR framework regarding an effective and efficient civil-military collaboration in the framework of U-Space. We have the good hooks in the ATM master plan and also in a strategic research and innovation agenda. And I would like to recall that there is a dedicated work strand to civil-military collaboration and interoperability. And what is identified in this work strand is valid for U-Space. So regarding the strategic level, we have the good hook and we are there. Now, what can we do more? It's regarding the technical level. And we need to identify some specific project in which we need to work together, civil and military, to deliver something. As food for thought, I would like to mention some aspects which have been already identified by the military. E-conspicuity. This is a topic on which we are already working on. Simply because there is no existing technology, for instance, for military jet aircraft. Second domain, which is highly important for the military, is dynamic airspace reconfiguration. How to address that together, particularly in a non-cooperative or non-controlled environment. This is a topic which is of military interest. And last but not least, interoperability and data exchange with the new commerce, USSPs and CISPs. So this is already 4 specific areas in which now at technical level we should sit together around the table and work together in order to deliver.
Thank you. It's interesting to hear that the 4 items that you mentioned are actually already very high on the agenda of the U-Space program, even within the civil community. So it's good that the problems are the same, and the resolution should be collaborative. I think that's the message, and it's a clear one. Thank you. So, Andreas, we've approached a clear milestone in SESAR and in fact Europe's U-Space development. We've come to the end of SESAR 2020. There's a regulatory framework in place. We now have a European strategy for research and a new chorus columns that includes innovative air mobility. Do we expect a change in direction now from SESAR's research program? Or is it going to be a question of steady as she goes, same research, same demonstration, the same tried and trusted formula?
Thank you for your question. Good afternoon to all. I think we should say yes, we will change a bit of direction. Let me start by saying we are here, we have a U-Space because we have done so much research and so successful research. And I think this was a bit the theme of today. We have seen exploratory research, industrial research, very large demonstrators, and the newest kid on the blocks, the Digital Sky demonstrators. And we have seen a ConOps, concept of operations, which Andrew will update in the next months and have a new version. So we are here, I would also say, thanks to research and demonstration activities carried out by the SESAR joint undertaking together with all the partners. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel. There are things done, there are things ready. We can implement the U-Space. The regulation is there, like you were saying. But then that's then the continuation, I would say. We have a lot of questions to tackle. Christoph mentioned some, you mentioned some. The connection between manned and unmanned, the integration of air traffic management and U-Space, and that is our focus. So the SESAR joint undertaking will continue to invest into U-Space and urban air mobility. It's one of our 9 flagships. Like you mentioned, another one is civil military coordination. And actually, we are doing it right now. We have closed a call in October where is a very important area is reserved for these projects. We might have 35 million ready early, and we know there are many, many good projects in the pipeline. So I think my reply to you would be, what has been researched enough, let's implement it. Let the market take over, give them a chance in the digital sky demonstrators to bring it really to deployment, to rollout. The areas where we jointly see more need for research and innovation, let's put our money into these areas and let's continue for the further rollout to be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's very much, I've heard from all four of you, and there's a bit of a theme coming through here in that we definitely have reached a milestone with certain things closing and certain things starting which are brand new as we're working forward. Now it's different. It's different to where we were before. It's not blue sky. We have a nice solid foundation that we can build on and we can start to deploy. But of course, this is very much an institutional viewpoint, deliberate for this panel. I mean, that's no accident. But each of you has stakeholder groups. You all have stakeholders that you deal with routinely and regularly. What is the feedback from them on where we are and where we're going? Have you got any feedback that they think is fantastic, that it's okay, more of the same, or, well, actually, I'd like to have seen a little bit more? May I start with you, Joachim?
Well, I think the feedback, well, first of all, who are our stakeholders? I mean, obviously, we are engaging with the member states. Then we are engaging with our trusted and valued colleagues in EASA and Eurocontrol and in EDA. And then we are engaging with industry, who also comes to us regularly to inform us about their needs and the opportunities they see. And I must say the feedback we have received so far is very positive. And I think that's also something that was mirrored in the conference today. I think it's generally valued that in Europe we have started to be very early, also in the international comparison, in developing a general framework for drones and then also a specific framework for use space. That creates a lot of opportunities for industry, both in Europe but also on the global scene. Obviously, people would like us to continue with that, and I think that's also one of the reasons why the drone strategy has been favorably recognized by many in this room and also outside. And so, for as long as we show our continued commitment to assist this industry and take the market forward, for as long as we do that, I think stakeholders will in general be with us and will support us in our efforts.
Thank you. Maria?
Thank you for this question. So the feedback is very positive, as Joaquin said. Still, I'm going to be a little bit more realistic on some feedback. So on the implementation of US space, obviously we have the first regulation, and we always said we will have the first AMCs and guidance material. Still, there is a lot of question mark on how things are implementing. We saw here implementation plans, member states, but still, obviously, the question is, where is the market? How to establish the demand? There is obviously a need for BVLOS operations. There is a need to ease the operational authorizations. The feedback is the regulation is very advanced. The regulatory framework is very advanced, but the implementation is something that we need to put a lot of efforts now. We need to support the member states, the competent authority, the stakeholders to get through the implementation. So feedback good, but now we need to go to the next level.
Understood. Yes. Very clear. Andreas, please.
Thank you. I think looking around, you see the enthusiasm by the research community, and this is very good. But I would also like to highlight how inclusive our projects are. We are reaching beyond the pure research community. We are talking, or we are working, or the projects are working with the operationals, with the operators, with the ANSPs, with the telecom operators, and so on and so forth. And let me highlight also the municipalities, the local and regional authorities, which are very much in the project, and we need them in the projects. And this is very, very important. And there's also enthusiasm. And there has to be more enthusiasm, because we have heard today also We wanted to do a live trial in this and this city, and it was not yet possible. This has to become possible, and I think also the front runners will inspire a larger community to follow. And in our project, we also try, of course, to integrate the military. We heard about the Belgian police is one in our projects now, and of course the link with EASA. I mean, it's a loop. We will, of course, involve EASA as much as possible, and we're also grateful for your resources. You are investing into this. It's also in your interest, of course, that you are as close as possible. So there is a lot of enthusiasm, and we need the inclusiveness, and that's then also to gain the societal acceptance. And we have heard also about projects carrying out surveys in member states, in the communities, and the feedback, and I think, EASA, you have done another study, it is, in the end, if people are educated and know what they're talking about, they are very, very positive. That is inspiring, and I think this gives us a positive attitude. So U-Space is coming, and we will see useful operations taking place.
Thank you very much. And Christophe?
Robin, the military are always positive. This is a given.
Can do.
No, if you are comparing the Warsaw Declaration dated 2016, if I'm right, and now the strategy. In 2016, in the declaration, the military was mentioned once. Now the military dimension is mentioned almost in all different flagship actions. So we can note the progress which has been achieved so far. So this is a good point. Now there is always room for improvement. And I would like to highlight 2 points. The first one has been already mentioned by Maria. It's on the certified category. There is really a need to progress. The military are ready to fly now, are flying now. You have probably all seen the drone overflying the Champs-Élysées during the French National Day. This is a reality today, and the military can fly now. We made a cross-border flight between France and Spain outside segregated area, and with a service provided by civil controllers. So the reality is there. So there is an effort to focus to make on the certified category. Second point, maybe we should find the right balance between being ambitious and pragmatism. And maybe we should focus on specific use case which are, as we have seen today, ready to fly today. Right. So maybe let's go through a step-by-step approach, beginning from use case which are mature today.
Thank you very much, Christophe. Dear panelists, I could carry on all night with this. Your insight is revealing and inspiring. Unfortunately, time has defeated. I'm aware that Maria and Joachim have to go off to the airport immediately, so I won't delay you any longer. My deepest thanks for your contribution today. It's been very insightful and helpful. Thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, our panelists. Oh,
may I dare to say a last word? I think also on behalf of Joachim, I wanted to thank the good cooperation we had together with DG Move for organizing the whole event. And I would like also to thank all the SGU staff. You have seen some of them on stage, like Robin, like Cengiz, like Neil, but there are also many people behind. And I think, Joachim, we should also thank all those who have organized these 1.5 days. And maybe a big thank you to all these working in the shadows. Thank you.
Thank you.